Well, yes, I'm very proud to be wearing with you the Vishivanka today. And now Amparo, who was my first teacher and first client, told me, explain why you're wearing it. I'm Sanjo Karani. I am founder of Funding Box. We're running the Seeds of Bravery initiative from the European Commission, supporting 300 deep tech startups with 20 million euros, thanks to the European taxpayers' money. So happy to have you here today. I'm very happy that South Summit chose a topic we were the almost only ones to address last year's with strategic autonomy. Now, of course, the whole drones and dual-use technologies and startups is bringing the strategic autonomy mainstream. I'm very happy it's covered today, and there's a whole track and the whole focus on that topic today. So, enough about me. We're going to organize the panel today in 3 blocks. I'm going to ask my fellow panelists to introduce themselves and the company and what they do. Then I'm going to ask them what is it that they think is the challenge that the topic has chosen around AI convergence, and where did they see that as an opportunity, bottleneck, buzzwords, challenges. And I'm also going to ask them to see what is it that they do specifically in the topic of dual use, dual impact, strategic autonomy. Let's try and keep it dynamic. Feel free to interrupt yourself if you want to after the first initial iterations. And I don't know if we have time for questions. I don't think today, but if we do, we'll be happy to take them. So, Fiona.
Okay. So I'm, like a lot of deep tech startups, a researcher by training, and then came into the space of deep tech financing. At Zaz Ventures, we're an advisory firm that supports deep tech startups in accessing public and private funding, because financing is essential to bringing some of these breakthrough technologies into the market and helping them understand what that funding stack looks like, both public and private, and how it can work together is essential to maximizing every dollar that they can get in their hands as a company.
Okay, so Fiona already brought the topic of funding. Thomas, you're also helping space startups. Tell us what Nova Space does and what you do and who we are, please. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. We're a consultancy specialized in the space sector, and we literally do everything. Not just myself, of course, but all my colleagues. So we help with governments with national space strategies, innovation strategies. We help clients buy a satellite, buy a constellation. They don't do that every day. But what I specifically work on and what I have a passion for is see how we can help with startup innovation. Innovation is a big field. We work specifically on startup innovation, and we help our clients implement one of the largest space entrepreneurship programs globally, which is called Cassini. And there's also many other activities, but the key or the main part of my work is to help build an ecosystem for our clients so that entrepreneurs can thrive.
Okay, Nova Space, how old are you? How many people in the organization?
We were founded in '83, so quite some time ago. We're about 180 people now. So we're actively globally.
You're the biggest practice in space in Europe?
In the world.
In the world,
yeah.
Okay. Good. Not only startups, but also others. You also advise governments, right, or infrastructure?
We advise governments across the world, because space, historically, the big space nations, you know them well, but space has become a critical infrastructure, and it's also part of, I guess, why we have the panel today. And because it's become a critical infrastructure, governments all over the world are looking at it. Even governments that have space budgets of 2 million euro are looking at how can we do this more strategically, even if our funds are limited
mainstream
and small. Yeah.
Thank you, Thomas. Carlos, Nazca Capital. You, please tell us not only about yourself, is aerospace and defense becoming a vertical that you are going to now, can you see that happening in Spain, the south of Europe, where you invest, or across the startups in your portfolio that you want to look into? Please tell us a bit.
Definitely. Well, thank you, Sanjo, and South Summit for the invitation. Yes, well, I'm one of the founding partners of Nazca Capital. We started 25 years ago investing in Spanish SMEs basically supporting ambitious growth projects. We obtain most of our return from the growth of the results of the companies in which we invest. We've done close to 120 deals in these past 25 years. And well, since we started, along with the evolution of our market, we always had in mind at some point to start specializing at one point. I think investors are asking us more and more to know more about where we invest. And definitely aerospace and defense is a market which has not been typically eligible for funds like us. But since 2024, we've been analyzing the sector. We've been developing our strategy, and we definitely find a very interesting opportunity based on all what's going on and what we read in the newspapers. And we're moving rapidly. We started the fund, which is a 600 million euro fund, back in June 2025, and we've already invested 165 million euros in 5 companies.
Okay, and some of them in the aerospace or defense space that you can disclose or comment?
Definitely. I mean, the fund is specialized in aerospace, defense, and security. We've invested in cybersecurity, but we've invested also in a launcher, PLD, Spanish launcher, Supel, which is a very interesting project for the development, a constellation for Earth observation. We've invested in critical communications, and we've made a significant investment in OSIA, which is one of the leading technology integrators in defense.
So, what about defense? Is that coming? Or?
Well, defense is within the industries where all these companies apply. Definitely in cybersecurity. Definitely there's an opportunity for our space companies. Definitely it's a very important part of OSIA's business. So yes.
Okay.
And we have developed, I mean, we are generalists. We were born generalists, and we have developed our expertise surrounding ourselves with people from the military and from the industry.
I'm going to actually pick on the word that you said, eligibility. And it's a big week in Brussels this week. I was with close to 50 dual-use drone startups during 2 days. They're getting a lot of attention, but today or tomorrow it will be announced that the agency of the European Commission is actually all funding money is somehow connected to European Commission money. And in Horizon Europe, where you get the money for startups for R&D, you're not allowed to do defense, not allowed. But they have another agency. This is what you do when you want to do things a bit differently. You create an agency that works autonomous. This is called the European Innovation Council. Fiona will also tell us a bit of their work with them. They're going to be able to announce defense going to be eligible. Dual use, but clearly defense. We don't have to hide anymore behind the dual use. Will be accepted. And my anticipation has been there is that the next multi-year program starting in 2028, R&D will also be allowed to be for defense. We keep forgetting that the European Commission doesn't have defense competences, but they're finding a way. Yeah, but we can do it defense industry, so let's do ammunition. Yeah, but we can do startups, let's do EIC. So very happy to Fiona.
So you're right. The Horizon Europe is a civilian program, and so when we come across companies in the past, we bury the defense kind of leads, because a lot of these companies have very significant dual use, especially in communication, security, because who needs security the most? It's in defense, secure communications in space and everything, sensing, very, very critical technologies, and they have parallel tracks. In defense, they're looking at space communications and whatnot, in encryption, where you would imagine banks in kind of civilian use, the pull factor is not as strong as in defense, and they are looking at those infrastructures, so like quantum key distribution. Their first customers are government agencies who need encryption, security, and communication. And I'm happy now we can be more open about those application areas because that is their first customer. They're their early adopters for these technologies.
Help us understand what also dual use means. I think you also mentioned quantum. Do you want to tell us about your work around quantum startups?
So we work a lot in the EIC Accelerator program. And within the EIC Accelerator program, they've actually one of the largest financiers of a lot of the quantum companies that you see in Europe. As ZAS, we worked with majority of those companies who have succeeded in the funding. And over the years, they have worked with finance, full stack quantum hardware companies like IQM, Pascal, across different modalities because you cannot bet on one, you have to bet on everything, photonics, Quably, etc. And also in Spain, Kilimanjaro, Multiverse as well. And then you have to look at the quantum computing, not just hardware, but the whole technology areas, which is the software, the supply chain, and everything else. And this is something that Accelerator, EIC, has done really, really well in terms of maturing all the different technology bricks. And that has catalyzed all of these companies to attract financing from the market to be able to continue that development.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we talk eligibility, we talk what lies behind dual use.
Yeah.
Thomas, where do you see the bottlenecks actually? With the opportunities we see clearly, the investors are looking at that. Is it the capital? Is the access to technology? How do you sell to ministries of defense? Where are the real bottlenecks to achieve real double impact or on top of the dual use?
I mean, if you ask the demand side, they will always say we need more capital, and I think the problem is maybe not the capital, but how that money comes. And in space, but also in defense, I think the most valuable for a company in space is to actually get a government contract, not a grant, not a development, not R&D support. We have really good systems and instruments for that, and space is actually, as a priority area, has a bit is on the good side of getting a little bit more of the money than other sectors. Where we really still are lacking is governments actually buying in a commercial way, commercial contracts with space companies. And that money is way more worth than a grant, because that means continuity, that means credibility, and that means they can start thinking about services and industrializing products rather than doing R&D. And I think in defense, the problem is the same. It's just harder. In defense, you're probably not going to sell a product as a startup to an MOD. You're going to sell it to one of the primes, the OEMs. And those themselves are only increasingly becoming capable of working with startups, of procuring for startups. And some do. I spoke with one of them, and they go really fast. It's a very big company, but it can go really fast from identifying an opportunity to actually placing a contract, small contract, but placing a contract. But not all big OEMs are set up for that, or not all the primes do that. And for companies, I noticed that it's hard for them, or for the startups, it's hard for them to identify what are the technology roadmaps of a particular country, because it's still very national. It's hard to identify what the roadmaps are because it's all about trust in defense, so they're not public. And then to identify the right people to talk to in the corporate, in the prime that actually would be their buyer, because it's not the MOD. And that makes the whole situation, I think, even a little harder for for defense companies. So we have now a lot of support programs. We had this morning the NATO Diana program. I think the next step, what is hard, is to actually start selling to governments via the
Is that something
supply chain.
you're running several programs for also some European Union institutions? Are you also in charge of helping startups trying to sell to space agency or ministries of this? How do they learn how to sell to them? There's a very long procurement process, no?
Yeah. So what we try to do is we try to help them understand who are the key decision makers in a company, how they can sell to a large corporate or to a government. With a large corporate, you have different entry routes. You have the core business that could be a procurer. You have procurement teams where they have sometimes people specialized in startup innovation procurement. You have the corporate venture teams, and kind of understanding how those work together. And that depends a little bit by industry prime, can help already a startup identify where they should go. We also actively help to build those relationships. So we build those relationships with the corporates because we can come with a portfolio, right? We're not just one company, we come with a portfolio of companies. So for corporate, that is much more interesting to talk to us because we don't come with one company, we come with 500 companies. And we'll find some that are interesting for them. And that helps us to open that relationship. And then we can put that to use to our network of companies that are part of our programs, and they can then benefit from those relationships that are already built.
Thank you. And I'm going to pick corporates now that you mentioned. Carlos, in your list of LPs in your fund, I don't know if in the one you mentioned or in some other one, you also have relevance corporates as investors, right? And you were mentioning also backstage that one of the startups that you've invested has also put focus not only on how they accelerate and how they increase the annual recurrent revenue, but how they build industrial capacity, if I understood well. No? Can you tell us a bit more about that? What is it that you do to help the startups in your portfolio, again, sell to the big corporate that might sit in your LP list but don't necessarily... Can you tell us a bit about
Yes.
it? And in the specific case that you mentioned.
Yeah, from a more generalist standpoint, I mean, what we do with basically is we help them accelerate their business plans. I mean, and this is across very different industries. We've invested in many industries over the last 25 years. Basically, what we do is we understand the businesses and the companies in which we invest very well. We are very close to the management teams, very well aligned in their business plan, and we try to make things happen earlier rather than later. Very general perspective. No? So we help them grow organically. We help them grow inorganically, looking for acquisitions, which will accelerate their business plan objectives. We help them in strategic decisions. Specifically in this sector, it is important how you partner with different players in the industry, and we are also good at attracting talent because we're able to
You help them with recruiting
to put
people.
incentives and share the benefit of our investments. No? Now, this is in a general perspective. In this specialized fund, what we are seeing is that there is more opportunities with this specialized approach. There's more opportunities for synergies and collaboration in between the different portfolio companies. So,
Okay.
so we are putting them together, and we are seeing interesting opportunities for the development of their different business lines. But yes, we've got Airbus as one of our LPs, and it's very interesting to have interaction with them because I mean it's good to share their views on where the technology is going, how they are addressing some of the challenges in the industry, which is the supply chain, and that is giving us a lot of insight.
Okay, so South Summit picks the AI convergence topic, invites us to talk about dual use. We somehow are already been there for some years. Let's assume in the audience there are not startups or founders that have not done anything in that space, but they're doing things in other spaces, AI, robotics, cybersecurity, data, and the whole convergence idea. What is it that we can tell the audience, the founders in the audience that now are listening, that you investors and facilitators are putting focus in these areas for them to consider if they would want to build a startup in that space? Fiona, you want to start? How do we inspire them?
The hot seat. I think the challenge right now for me on AI is there's a lot of noise, especially coming from the other side, the Atlantic. There is still room to play for Europeans in this space, but you have to play in the right way, in the right technologies. If you're looking at defense, dual use, data security, and is paramount for the customers. Because if you're looking at defense, you're looking at corporates, you're looking at sensitivities of that, most of them can't use whatever those models and whatever the existing technology. So think critically on what can you provide to enable AI usage in sectors who can't use them today because security, safety, training, and how do you ensure that for these critical European infrastructure?
So if they're a cybersecurity startup, keep iterating there with the AI focus.
Yes.
Don't get too overwhelmed with what is happening on the other sides.
Yes.
And focus while looking at how do you build something that you can actually sell to a Ministry of Defense or a space agency.
There's a real need. There's an absolute need in these sectors, but they can't. And so what they're locked in with is legacy systems or very piecemeal. And the opportunity is huge, but you have to present the opportunity that meets what the customer needs are.
Thomas, connected to that, inspiration, maybe around the space infrastructure.
Yeah. So if
can they actually see themselves in, I'm going to sell something to Elon Musk for his data center in space? How do you connect to that?
I'm not sure if we'll sell much to Elon, but he's pretty vertically integrated, which is also the strength of the company. But if you look at what we see in space is a lot of companies that had, let's say, use cases in the civil application areas that potentially were not as breakthrough. And you see a whole batch of companies that now focus on defense and on civil opportunities. And suddenly they raise a lot of money. I think the last example, beginning of this year, was Constellar. If you would look at their website 2 years ago, Constellar was about precision agriculture.
Okay, can you repeat the name of the company?
Constellar.
Constellar.
They're based in Munich.
Munich.
In Germany. And if you looked at the website, it was about precision agriculture. If you look today, it will be about intelligence, maritime awareness. What they do is they have infrared sensors, so they can basically see if there's movement of an adversary that you cannot see with optical or radar sensors. So that's the use case. So there's many ways that civil technology has an application for defense, and with defense growing so much, that's a huge business opportunity for these companies. However, the difficulty is if you go in and you have technology readiness level TRL 8, 9 in space, which is the maximum 9, and then you want to do the same in defense, the requirements are completely different.
Okay.
So your TRL level might suddenly be 4, 5. And so that's the trap for companies. It's great you can use your technology in defense, but you cannot just one-to-one be like, okay.
And this helps me make last question. You get to close, Carlos. So
Okay.
bring the energy. How, do your investors actually buy this pivot? Same company 3 years ago, precision agriculture to doing this. Do you actually see that as something positive? Are you reluctant? Are you looking at at every AI startup as a potential dual-use investor in startup or not really?
Well, we think that technology is turning the tables right now. So there's a tremendous opportunity now for founders and startups to become competitive against larger players. And there's also this sovereignty issue, which is a tremendous opportunity. I think dual-use technologies, advanced technologies are and should be the backbone of Europe's industry. And I think the opportunity is there for founders. So I would focus in specialization. I think the challenge is so complex, so big, that I think it's impossible to address it in a say, broader way.
Okay. Well, thank you very much today for being with us. I'm very happy we managed to stick to the time, and I want to conclude that for all startups, founders in the audience, if you're considering if dual-use space defense is for you, please take the message from our three panelists today. Almost everything is about dual-use anyway, and there's an opportunity of pivoting from where you are to where the investors, the accelerators, the facilitators are helping you win some funding, get some additional investment, and be successful with your companies. So, since we also need to give a response to Mr. Putin, and I'm wearing the shirt today, Slava Ukraini, glory to the European. Thank you. Bye.